How about Captain Crunch's Crunch Berries with breakfast?
Whoa, Dad, we're on
Crunch Island. He's Jean Foot.
And he stole our crunch.
Quick, the zip line.
He's getting away.
Throw our last Crunch Berry.
No!
No one steals my Crunch Berries.
I think you mean my crunch berries. Choose your own crunch venture with Captain Crunch.
This episode is brought to you by AARP. 10 years from today, Lisa Schneider will trade in her office job to become the leader of a pack of dogs. As the owner of her own dog rescue, that is. A second act made possible by the reskilling courses Lisa's taking now with AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. And she can finally run with the big dogs. And the small dogs, who just think they're big dogs. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/skills.
Welcome to California in Focus. I'm David Mastio. Today we're talking about the job market in California. Joining me today is Kenneth Trupp, Center Square's reporter for California. Kenneth, what's going on with jobs in California?
Oh, David, the picture's not looking good. Last week, Governor Newsom did share the state's job growth as being top of the country, but it turns out that all of this job growth that we've had since 2022 has actually been in the public sector, and private employment has cratered. We've lost over 100,000 private sector jobs. These are the jobs that are the ones paying taxes, and we've had an increase of over 300,000 in public sector and public sector supported jobs, like in public supported jobs, like in healthcare, that have driven the entire net increase of 207,000 since September of 2022. This does not bode well for the state economy and paints a picture of a private sector and rapid retreat from California as government grows and the number of real taxpayers declines.
Walk this back for me. There's jobs are growing in California. The governor says California's job growth is number one in the nation, but the jobs that are being created are jobs that spend government money instead of jobs that pay government money. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, government employees still pays taxes on their salaries. So, you can make the argument, well, it's not entirely all just taxpayer money. They're paying taxes too. But yeah, Newsom shared that, California is the tentpole of the American economy. 60% of national job creation last month came right here in California. Sorry, it doesn't sound like that. But that doesn't really account for the fact that businesses and people are leaving California. People just don't want to keep their businesses here. Republicans, of course, went into an I told you so moment. I spoke to State Senator Brian Dahle, is just explained, Republicans have been saying for years that businesses and Californians are leaving. It was just a matter of time before the slick numbers game the governor and legislative Democrats play would come to light. And that about captures the sentiment here. I think we look at what's happening with the tech industry, which is the golden goose for California. It's stopped laying the eggs that it has been. We haven't seen IPOs. The tech industry as a whole in the nation, which is really, the tentpole of California growth, we've had over 350,000 layoffs since 2022, and with many of those jobs in California. There is little indication that we're going to be able to significantly grow revenue to pay for this rapid increase in government spending we've had since Jerry Brown stepped out of office.
And while the tech sector is retreating in California in terms of jobs, the state legislature this week, you reported, imposed a great big new tax. Is that right?
Yeah, the state legislature seems like it's probably going to pass this new tax on what's called data extraction. That's just a really fancy way of saying we're going to charge a new 7.25% tax on revenue from selling advertising space. So companies like Meta, Google, even like Twitter, I think, reaches the threshold, Amazon, they'd be paying billions of dollars in this new tax every year to California. And Does that make them want to have jobs in this state? I don't think so. This new tax would be extremely costly. Even if you just look at the revenue of Amazon, Meta, and Google's ad sales for the last quarter of last year, combined, just those three companies would pay an annualized $4.8 billion in this new tax. But the tech sector as a whole sort of struggling, trying to reduce costs. I think it's going to end up with workers who pay the price.
And while the tech sector is shrinking and government is holding up the job market in California, there's going to have to be some shrinkage in government soon because there's a $47 billion deficit reduction plan in place, right? And that's going to mean a lot of cuts.
There is a $47 billion deficit reduction plan, but we're mostly meeting that through spending deferrals, changing payroll dates, and reducing one-time capital expenditures. There's very little focus on reducing the number of jobs in government. Keep in mind that the biggest political force in California is government workers. Public sector unions are, really unmatched in their political power in the state because they can mobilize volunteers and they can mobilize a lot of dollars. A lot of these union dues go towards funding political candidates who will pay them more money and hire more people.
Thinking a little bit past the reporting that we've done, let's talk about next year. With all of the gimmicks that the state has used to paper over the $47 billion deficit this year, is it likely there's going to be a deficit next year? And are all those gimmicks going to be available? Or is that going to be cutting right when Newsom is taking a newly prominent role on the national stage?
That remains to be seen. The budget agreement reached with Newsom and the legislature was actually a multi-year budget agreement, although not a multi-year budget bill. It does seem like they do stabilize revenues and spending to prevent huge deficits for the next 2 years. Look, when push comes to shove, when you have a budget of several $100 billion, you can figure out a way to cut spending without having to fire people. This is the state that has spent tens of billions of dollars in high-speed rail, but hasn't really finished any single segment of track.
Kenneth, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
How about Captain Crunch's Crunch Berries with breakfast?
Whoa, Dad, we're on
Crunch Island. He's Jean Lefoot.
And he stole our crunch.
Quick, the zip line.
He's getting away.
Throw our last crunch berry. No! No one steals my crunch berries.
I think you mean my crunch berries. Choose your own crunch venture with Cap'n Crunch.
Let's say your small business has a problem, like maybe one of your doggy daycare customers had an accident. You might say something like,
"Doggone it!
Hi, Chihuahua!"
Holy schnauzers!
but if you need someone who can actually help, just say,
"Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there."
and get help filing a claim from your local State Farm agent. For your small business insurance needs, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.